Hey folks, back again with another F-sharp programming session. It's Saturday 1 o'clock here, and it's super rainy outside, so it's the perfect time to spend programming a bit. So let's dive right into it. Let's maybe share my screen, that will help. And we're gonna pick up right where we left off yesterday. So 1 minute recap, what am I building? A little console application that takes a CSV file as input, which contains my whole collection of video games, every game I have played, every game in my backlog. And I want to figure out for my collection how many hours of my pastime have I spent playing video games. To find an answer, or to find an estimate for that answer, we're going to use a free website called How to Beat to look up average completion times for every video game. And right up until now, let's maybe open up what we have. Right up until now, we're almost there. It's almost done. So we can read that CSV file, and we can query how long to beat, and we can parse the results, so we have the average play times or the average completion times for that game. So now the only thing we have to do is do this for every game in the collection. And yesterday we ended by trying it for not the first game that we have been using as a test case during our whole session. And I tried it for the second game in my collection. I don't actually know which game it is, but it's failing. So we have a problem to fix before we continue. So the way I'm gonna approach this session is just by going from problem to problem and fixing all the things until my whole collection of 300 plus video games finishes without any errors. Up until now, we've been throwing exceptions every time we find something we don't expect. For example, if we receive HTML back from the website we are scraping, we just crash, and I don't know if I want to keep going down that road, especially not now that we have failing cases in the actual data. So maybe today we'll rework this a bit using the type system instead of exception handling to handle errors a bit more gracefully and to be able to recover, or to at least run my code for every game in the collection and then see what are all the problem cases instead going one by one as we are now. So yeah, let's see what the current problem is. So if I run the program right now, which just reads the entire CSV but looks up the playtime for the second game, we get an exception, and it's an exception in parser world. So when we parse a decimal from a string, that smells like we are parsing the playtime and we're getting back something we don't expect. We can start troubleshooting in multiple ways. We can look at HTTP that's coming back, or we can just put a log statement where we try to parse it, or debug. We were using Visual Studio, so debugging is also an option. I've never debugged F-sharp code actually. Let's give that a try. So we are crashing in the parsing of the response. That's somewhere in here. There we go. I think it's this one. I see we're just parsing and not trying to parse something. Maybe before we fix the problem, maybe let's rework this a bit so we crash less hard. But first, let's debug. And in order to debug, we need to be able to provide a command line argument. I've never run my program using Visual Studio. I know it's possible to provide command line arguments, but I don't really remember where I have to give those. This is the entire argument we need to provide. Where debug, that sounds like a promising place. This looks new. I've never heard of a debug launch profile, but yep, that's what we need. Cool. Probably it's Visual Studio 22 stuff. There we go. So just provide the argument when we debug via Visual Studio. Sure. What are all these buttons? Duplicate, delete. Okay. How do I select the current launch profile? Is this launch profile? Probably. Okay then. The reason why I'm also doing this little program, this little app, is to play around with .NET 6 or at least F# 6 and the new Visual Studio. So if you see me stumbling, that's the reason. It's all an upgrade of the tooling I'm used to working with. One observation: I never use debugging when I write code. I use the REPL print statements. One observation I have is that starting a debug process is very, very slow. Is it because I made the process hang? No. Okay, it already had a breakpoint. Cool. It's the first time I see this debugger in a... Wait. Okay. This is not the error case. It's also not the error case. No. Is there an error case? Ah, interesting. We have a dash as an hours played. Can I go through the call stack and figure out which game is currently being handled? Yeah, sure. This place in the call stack will have the information we need. And these are the two diffs coming back from how long to beat. And if I can inspect them, that would be even better, but of course we cannot. Oh, there we go. Second diff contains playtime, first diff contains the actual title of the game, so let's take a look. Or maybe it's an argument. It's an argument in the HTML call, not in the parsing. Okay, so let's see what's in here. Nope, we're still not in the correct place. Title, there we go. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. That's a game that is not even out yet. Probably next year. Why is it? It's a bug or a parsing issue we have to fix, but this is not a game I was expecting to see. Apparently, Breath of the Wild 2 is in my played shelf. Maybe we found a bug, or I have to clean up my data a little bit. Let's take a look. Breath of the Wild 2. Zelda Breath of the Wild is an amazing game, by the way. Much confused. It's not on my shelves, so let's put it there. Let's take a look at the CSV file we're using. Put it somewhere over here, yes. Let's see, where are we getting our Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 from? Hello? Okay. Oh, I don't know where I got the 2 from, but it's just Zelda Breath of the Wild. That is definitely a game I have played, and it would be very weird if we don't have playtime. It's a very popular game, so not seeing this pop up, that sounds like a bug. or potentially every player is a completionist and we don't have like a... Oh yeah. Okay, that's what's happening. So we're actually parsing, or the way we query this website for playtimes is we just do the exact same thing I did now. We go to this URL and we look up, or we perform an HTTP request with this query, and we get returned the HTML. So we're doing HTML scraping. We have no REST API or something. And Breath of the Wild 2 is part of the search results, and we are also parsing that right now. But that game is not out yet, so it has no playtimes. Now I'm thinking, should we just ignore everything except the exact title we're looking for? Or should we try to parse games not out yet and do that later? If we try to parse them now, instead of having decimals for playtimes, we'll have a decimal or nothing for playtimes. I think every game in my collection for which I'm... No, yeah, let's do that way. It's the safest alternative. So, we figured out the next thing we have to do. Being able to cope with unknown playtimes. So I'm gonna put that in our current card. Games with unknown playtime. This will have a little bit of impact on our interfaces, or at least on our types, because I would like to model this using an option type instead of a nullable decimal or something like that. Should we start from a test? Yeah, let's start from a test and see which direction this nudges us. Maybe we'll start with a big top level test and then drill down to the actual parsing of playtimes. So let's try to parse the HTLB response, or the how long to beat response for Zelda Breath of the Wild. In order to do that, we need the HTML, so we can go back to the web page, or we can do the query again in our code, but let's just steal it from here. Okay, let's see which call we are scraping. It's not a cross XML HTTP request, it's just an HTTP get of the search. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. So let's query Breath of the Wild. Oh, I'm pressing the wrong one here. Okay. Page load, please. Oh. Okay. No. Oh my god. Okay. Zelda Breath of the Wild. And this performs a query. Yes. And this is the HTML we are actually scraping in our code. So let's grab this. Do we see Breath of the Wild 2? Yes. So we have an actual case. I'm gonna quickly massage this into a test case we can use. So let's open a new buffer. So we have this structure we know. It's an unordered list with a couple of list items, yes. And we can get rid of the original. Let's just throw that out. And then we have the case we're currently crashing on. So let's get rid of everything except the case we are crashing on. There we go. There's a lot of clear diffs. My eyes are bleeding. Let's just format this before we use this as a test case. It is not PHP, it is HTML. So please format my HTML for me. There is no formatter for HTML. What? Okay, it just needed some time. Let's escape the double quotes. We've seen this in our previous session. There we go. So this is a good test case. Even a top level test case for the parsing functions. So let's write a new test. It's just a string containing everything for Breath of the Wild 2 with no playtimes. Yes, that's still correct. Let's write a new test case. My snippets for F#, I haven't installed them yet in Visual Studio 22, so let's just copy paste this. I have no idea what just happened. There we go. So with empty playtimes, okay, and what's the actual test we want to do is the how long to beat parsing. What is happening? I didn't save and my formatter is going crazy. Don't like it. Let's yeah, it's incorrect indentation, but why is it incorrectly indenting? Is it because I had syntax issues? There we go. Oh, this is a pain on my on the eyes. It looks like my HTML formatting has totally disappeared. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's better. Let's write a test. How long to beat? How long to beat? Parse search result. Yes. No. What do we use? Okay. And it's a search response containing this HTML. And it should give me a list of the results, which in this case is Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 without any playtimes or with unknown playtimes. So actually that'll just be, I was thinking, do we need an option type? Because I modeled our playtimes as a list, we can also just not have an entry for a playtime we have no data about. Or we can make this number an option. Let's see. I'm not sure which way I prefer. In the case of missing data that you know can be missed or that is not always there, I prefer option type because it's super explicit. It's in your face. Everywhere you use this this data, you have to explicitly handle the cases, both cases of the data being there or not. A list is somewhat similar because a list has can have 0 elements, but for something as playtimes, maybe it makes more sense to model it as a value that can be null or an option. Okay, so we have our failing test. Let's see if it fails for the right reasons. Yes, this is the bug we see when we run our application. We are trying to parse dash dash. Yeah, there we go. We are trying to parse this dash dash. And we don't handle that case. Okay, we already made up our minds about how we want to fix this. So I will be trying to implement or to add option to the playtime to explicitly model the missing data case. So let's go to our code. This is where we parse the category. This is where we parse the playtime. Yeah. So now this decimal parsing can fail or we can check beforehand whether we are working in this case. But this function returns a decimal right now, and it will have to return something else. It has to return an option of a decimal. And of course, this will ripple through our entire code base. I don't think. Does it make sense to take small steps to show the principle of small steps? Yeah, maybe that's a cooler way. So instead of just breaking everything for half an hour and then hopefully ending up at a correct ending. Oh no, I'm gonna do the break everything approach because otherwise we'll have to duplicate the types and stuff. Yeah, let's just ripple through in one swoop, one fell swoop. So now it turns a decimal, and I wanted to have a optional decimal. We have unit tests for this little tiny function. Maybe let's work from those tests. These are those tests, so we can parse whole numbers and we can parse decimal numbers or and a half, just like this, and a half. And now you'd also like to be able, we want to be able to parse this. So on the types level, things will change because instead of a decimal, we are returning an option, which is sum in the case that we have data. In the case where we will not have data or where we do not have data, it's when we encounter this, then we return the none. So those are the two options, or the two possibilities for an option type. Either it's some value, in the other case it's nothing or none. Compiler is not happy because parse playtime does not return an option but a decimal. But if we say that it has to return an option, then our test is compiling again, yes, but our code itself is in big problems. Let's make it easy actually. If whatever we get is exactly the string we are currently handling, then we have the none case, and in the other case, we parse the string into a decimal, and we will always, or we assume that it always works, and we return sum. So that is probably enough. I'm just gonna quickly make it compile again to make sure we haven't broken more than we think that we broke. This unit test should now also pass. Build times are really slow. I don't know if it's my computer being very slow because it's an old laptop, or because of the new Visual Studio, or because of the streaming setup, but it's a bit slow. Yes, this is what we expect. So it's the big unit test covering the entire parsing that's still failing because we just hard-coded a -1. And this is the one we're interested in. No. Oh yeah, that's also the hard-coded. Sorry, this is the one we're interested in. These are the 3 playtimes, and that one is green. So yeah, as expected, we can proceed. Now this is an option. I think we're just gonna expose the option because it can be non-existent, and that is true. So playtime itself, this type also needs to know about the optionality. And I think that's all we do right now. Yep, looks like we are compiling again. Probably here something might have broken. Let's check. everything looks good. Where is my minimize button? Oh, it's not really true. Okay, now we have the optionality leaking in everywhere. That is to be as expected as well. Yeah, let's just change these tests. Most of the time when I have to change existing tests, when doing something unrelated, it's a bit of a smell, but in this case, I'll allow it. Because it's the literal structure we're returning that has grown. And that optionality is important enough to see in all the tests that cover this part, so yeah. Only one failing test, please. And it fails because we are expecting no search results, but we actually have some. Yep, this looks better. And we have search results, which is Breath of the Wild 2 with no playtimes logged. That is correct. Cool. Thank you, formatter. I love it when the formatter does its thing. It sometimes is too eager, or I press save too early and it gives me more work than what it's worth, but when it works, it's a pleasure. Then I think we fixed bug number 1, and we will be able to parse the second game in our played shelf. There we go. Let's give it a try. Yay. Okay. We're making progress. Let's commit. Handle unknown playtimes. I checked in launch settings. Yeah, that's something that can be... That's useful for other people as well. Where is my backlog? My task board. What's the next thing we would do? Wire everything together? Yeah, that's still the big task we're working on. Let's do that. So we've seen this work for the first game in the collection. Now we've seen it work for the second game. Now it's time to do it for all the games, I think, and see how far we get. So instead of just handling one game, let's do it for all the games. So finished games is a list of all the games in my finished shelf or my played shelf. And currently we're just doing something with one of them. Let's do something with all of them. And in F# land, we do this with 4 lists of 4 loops, or with a collection function. Let's see which collection function. A map probably, because we are mapping from a game to a search result. So for every game, map it to this actually. So get the HTML for its title, and then parse the search results, and then we'll have to do some filtering, because right now when we search for Zelda Breath of the Wild, we return all the hits we find, and it's DLC sequels, but we want to only take a look at the exact match, not all the options. So let me just add that in case we forget. Sequel, it's a weird word. I use SQL in the database query language more often than I type the word sequel. But first, let's just naively run everything we had up until now for every game. I'm just gonna write a quick inline lambda. And game.title, then do the HTML, then parse the search result as we have been doing. Oh yeah, and HTML is asynchronous. Okay, so let's do it the other way around. We're first gonna run all the HTTP requests. Oh yeah. No, I actually don't understand why this is not working. Oh yeah, we don't have to let bang, just a list of async responses. Yes. Yeah, okay. So for every game, do the lookup. Or make an async promise to do the lookup at a later time. And now we have to actually do the lookup and parse the results. Should we? Yeah, let's first do it naively. Just starting all the 300 or whatever games we have, start all those async processes at the same time. That might be a denial of service attack on the website. Maybe let's not do that. Let's... Is there an easy way to sequence async in F#? Or should we grab straight for the power tools and use Parallel with Throttle? Yeah, let's do that. It's not that much of a leap. So, what is this? F#x.async. F#x, everything you see in those libraries is extensions to the base library. And F#x.async has a lot of helper functions and commonly used functions and commonly used ways of doing asynchronous programming. And one of those functions I'm currently eyeballing is this one, Parallel with Throttle. So then you can run multiple asynchronous requests in parallel, and you can specify how many at a time have to be running in parallel. So instead of denial of service attacking some website, we can just run 3, 4, 5 HTTP requests in parallel. Should be able to handle that. And it's a very small step, so I'm just going to do that as well to ease the load on the website we're using, because it's not our own website, and let's stay respectful. So let's install f#x.async. Cool. Let's open it up. Do I have to do something, or do I have access to the sync already? Let's see. Sync dot run. No, we don't. And if we open up the module, do we now have async? Otherwise, we will have to look up the documentation. How does this work? Let's look up the docs before straying too far. Namespace f#x.control. Okay, let's open up that namespace. There we go. Parallel with throttle. Parallel catch. What does that do? Creates an asynchronous computation that executes all the given asynchronous computations. Okay, that's a lot of words. Initially queuing each as work item, blah, 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 blah. Does not throw exceptions, instead an array of choices. Okay, if we start encountering exceptions, that sounds like what we want. But for now, let's just do without exception catching, or without the left-right thing. The choices, that was the word I'm looking for. Okay, so we can run stuff in parallel given a certain throttle or a number. Yep. I'm gonna get rid of the way we did async in the previous session, because I don't think everything has to run in an async context. Just this is our main method, so we can scope a little more narrow here. So finished games, cool. Let's run all this get HTML. And let's do an async parallel with throttle. And let's start with three parallel requests at a time. So that is a single async. And let's just do async.run on this single async. Run synchronously, sorry. So this should run and execute. And now we have a list of search responses. There we go. Okay, there we go. So now we actually do the 300 HTTP calls. Let's open up a network manager. See if we can see all these requests fly over the wire. Performance, does that have network IO? Yes. Yes, it does. Okay. So what did we do? We just made the async batch up. And we made our main method do it for every game instead of just the... Okay, this is uptime. I was confused. I was seeing spikes. What am I downloading? I'm not downloading anything. I'm uploading my stream to Twitch. Okay. Let's see how this graph will evolve when we run our program. I remember at my parents' house, we lived in green pasture, like in De Kempen, as they say in Flanders here in Belgium. And I remember my download speed being 300 kilobytes per second. If you see how many megabytes and megabits we send over the wire in 2021 with all this streaming and Netflix, it's insane how much more bandwidth we consume on a daily basis. But enough waffling, let's see. Let's look at this network graph spike up. Actually, it's not spiking. Maybe we should print some progress, because I have no idea what my app is doing right now. Yeah, let's do that. Let's print out which game we are currently querying. Okay, quitting my program is... Hello? Quitting my program is not really an option. Cool. Let's print out a game. So whenever we do the get HTML, let's also do the... Let's also print out. I'm typing JavaScript, I'm not typing F#, sorry. I'm just gonna put a print statement in here. Uh, so we print out neat little side effect in there. I should have used the sprintf instead of what I'm trying to do here. I have no idea what it's saying. Okay. Let's use a format string. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but this will work. Cool. This inline lambda is already becoming a 2-line statement. Maybe it's time to do something about that, but now at least we see what's happening. And now we don't need those parentheses. I'm curious if I do something about this warning, will it fix my compile times? Because it's mucho slow. And for some reason, this is still crashing. Okay, let's get rid of it. I'm gonna quickly go back there. Hello. I hate it when I type faster than my computer can process things. There we go. Oh, look at it go. I think the website is throttling us. Or maybe we finished already. I don't understand the order in which I'm seeing these games, because Fire I finished a couple of weeks ago, but then Tale of Exilia I finished. Maybe it's sorted by ID or by release date, but what's happening? Why is it hanging? We will have to debug, I'm afraid. And okay, now we close. Okay, let's see what's happening. Visual Studio stopped responding for 80 seconds because of resharper. Whoa. What was that sound? Yeah, so we now reach that point. What are we doing? Where are we hanging? Huh? We're hanging inside the run synchronously. It's the first time I work with this parallel throttle thing, and I don't understand what's going on. How can I troubleshoot what the actual problem is? So we have 325 finished games. We are now mapping over every game and doing the HTTP call. Is Tales of Exilia the final game or not? Yeah, that's a good thing to figure out. let's figure that out first. So let's print out all the finished games because, or no, let's just put a breakpoint. Once debug, let's keep debugging. We have 325 video games in the finished shelf. Yes, those look familiar. Let's go look at what's down there. My mommy, where's the full list? Oh, it's 300 and some. It's good exercise for my scrolling finger. $325. Interesting. So we reached the end. We reached the end and for some reason it hangs. Is it because we... No? I don't understand what's happening. I'm gonna try getting rid of that last game. Or let's just take the first 300 games and see if we get the same... Let's see if we get the same effect. Maybe this works faster in a REPL troubleshooting. Yeah, you know what? I'm already sick of this build cycle. Let's copy paste this little bit of code and drop to the REPL. It gives us a faster feedback loop. Visual Studio, let me, yes, okay. So, blah, 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 blah. We can get rid of almost everything. Let's maybe keep the file path because we will be using the same CSV file. Yes, and let's call this games. And we need to load in that library with the parallel with Throttle. It would be funny if that is causing the issue. Is the one variable I have not used before in my code, so could be the problem. Let's first see how far we get. So I'm just loading a new NuGet package now into this script. It's the same NuGet package we installed in our project a couple of minutes ago. And I am not seeing anything. Hello. It's just slow. Okay, there we go. Let's open it up. Open F#x.control. That's where the async extra functions live. Okay, cool. Let's see if we get the same. Sure. Let's load everything then. What could be the problem? We do the HTTP request for every game. Do we actually do the full HTTP requests? We should, because if you look at the type of responses, it is a list of search results and all the async has gone. Yes. Oh, there we go. It looks like it's behaving the same way, no? I don't understand what's going on. It's hanging? But why? Yeah, it's hanging. Interesting. Okay, let's troubleshoot. So instead of doing with the full collection, let's try 3 games so we don't denial of service attack the website we're querying. And this is the one thing I'm not sure about, so let's not use it for a while and let's just do async parallel. This runs every task or every HTTP request in parallel, and it's only 3 of them, so that's probably not a problem. Let's set up everything up for a new run. This usually is faster than building your entire app and running your command line app. It's a bit slow because I restarted the REPL now because we were crashing. But if you're not in a it crashes or it indefinitely hangs scenario, the REPL or the interactive window is way faster feedback-wise. But when it hangs like this, I'm not sure which of the 2 approaches works faster. There we go. Let's run it for 3 games with things I know instead of new stuff. Interesting. That works without a problem. And what happens if I use the new function? That interesting. That also works without a problem. What's the catch? Let's try with a bigger data set. 100 games, all in parallel. I'm sorry, howlongtobeat.com. Apparently they don't have a problem with it. They can parse my 100 requests just fine. Or process them. Okay, and if I drop to as parallel with Throttle, so we don't denial of service attack the poor website. Maybe it's just slow. Let's, instead of just printing we're starting on something, let's also print we finished working on something. Because it appears to work just fine. Let's just capture this and let's return result. This lambda is becoming a 1, 2, 3, 4 line statement already. It's almost time to clean it up. So we see querying, we see finished querying. Appears to work. Maybe it's just slow after a while. So we're on Final Fantasy 13 right now. It's my least of all the Final Fantasy games. My least favorite, at least. I found it too linear. Combat system, nah, didn't like it. For some reason, the final game we query takes a long time. I don't really understand why. So if we use the full collection. No, let's try playing with this throttle. Let's try 10 simultaneous requests. It makes no difference. It's like boom, 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 boom. And then at that last game, it's... Oh, that looked like it went faster. You can't know until you measure, of course, but it felt faster. Anyway, if it works for 100 games, when we try 10 simultaneous, let's do it for the full collection. Yes, Tales of Exilia was the... I don't understand what's happening right now at this point. Is it doing a lot of to-string printing to the REPL? Because Tales of Exilia is the last game. So now all the HTTP stuff is done. But it's hanging. Oh yeah, let's try something. So instead of putting it in a variable, let's just run all the code, but ignore results so we don't print them in a to the REPL. Maybe that was the problem. Printing is just printing of HTML returned for 300 video games is maybe a bit much for our console. No, that's not a problem. Interesting. I have no idea what's happening right now. Whenever I type something random like 1 equals 1, it's just to see when the REPL becomes responsive again. But it seems to work. It's just that it does something I don't understand. I don't like it when some code does something I don't understand, but it appears to work. We give it a couple of seconds. So I'm just gonna not worry too much about it today. We'll dig in deeper once we have something working. So I'm dropping in the code we played with in REPL now. We're throttling with 10. We're also printing, but now we're not printing responses to the console, but that was not really the problem. Okay, so now we should fetch our entire collection and we should see feedback in the console of which games are being processed. If this works, I might have to call it a day or take a short break, because then we're almost done. Then we can... the only thing we're missing is... Oh no, we are actually querying all the games in the collection. The only thing we're missing is just adding up the numbers. All the playtimes for every game individually. Oh, okay, that's cool. We're so close, I can almost taste success. It's actually impressive seeing all of these games go by. I sure play a lot of video games. Yes, it ended in the REPL, so I expect it to also end in here. You completed 325 games, and we have playtimes for every one of them. Yes, let's take a short break, and then in the next session we will, in all those search responses we receive back from howlongtobeat.com, there are more than one search result. So for example, you see for every DLC or for every sequel, and we want to find the exact game every time. So that's something we still have to do. And then when we have the exact playtimes for a specific title, we can just add them up and we finally know how many hours I wasted playing video games. Cool. So close. Let's update our Trello board. So we're still working on this big story, but we did the async throttling. And yes, that's true. This is what I was discussing. This is the next thing we should do. And those blue tasks are nice to have. So those are things, maybe if I am still bored or if it's still weekend when I finish and I want to program some more, maybe we'll pick those up. Okay, that's it for right now. This was F# live coding. We're almost done with our little app. See you next time. Bye bye.